couple Meg and Kayla walk hand in hand while discussing their friend who just lost her boyfriend to another girl. They pass by a group of homophobic girls who mock them, and Kayla flips them off. One of the girls grabs Meg by the hair and throws her to the ground while the rest of the group attacks her. Kayla runs to help Meg, shouting at the girls to stop, but one of them pushes her back, preventing her from helping. A year later, we see a nervous Meg who has just landed and is irritated to realize that Kayla is the one who came to pick her up. Meg and Kayla haven't seen each other since Meg was beaten by the group of delinquents that night. Meg and Kayla's relationship ended and Meg distanced herself. Now they are meeting again a year later to attend the wedding of Lizzie, one of their best friends to Dominic, Liz's fiancé, and the brother of Cam, another of Meg and Kayla's best friends. Upon arriving at their destination, Meg reunites with the rest of her friends, Lizzie, Cam, and another best friend, Ruth. Meg attends a small formal party with her best friends, the groom's and bride's families, and that night the 5 friends spend celebrating. The next morning, Cam wakes Meg up and tells her about a plan for a little getaway with the bride, since it was the last day they would spend together before Lizzie got married. The group of 5 heads to the docks and boards the old boat Kim borrowed for their little adventure. Cam confiscates everyone's phones and pilots the boat quickly. Sometime later, they arrive at an island that Cam discovered with the beach resort's assistant manager. Kayla is the first to get off the boat, and the others encourage Meg to do the same. As soon as the two get off the boat, Kim quickly reverses and Ruth explains that they were only going to leave the two alone for a while so they could talk. Instead of talking, Meg and Kayla just sit there doing their own things while Cam, Lizzie, and Ruth wait on the other side of the island for the two exes to finish their supposed conversation. Cam goes diving and dives deep when she finds a doll among some rocks. The shadow hovers over her and Cam gets scared when she sees a stingray. She resurfaces and returns to the beach where Ruth and Lizzie are. Meanwhile, Meg and Kayla decide to swim to the other side of the island where the others are. Kayla tries to talk to Meg and apologize for getting her beaten up a year ago, since it was really her fault for responding to the delinquents when she shouldn't have. Meg is initially speechless, not really wanting to talk to Kayla after the traumatic event she had to endure because of her, but soon gives in and finally responds. The conversation starts light until they finally put aside the awkwardness and close the distance between them. Megan and Kayla are so engrossed in their own world that they don't notice the impending danger lurking underwater. Meg and Kayla reach the other side of the island where the others are and decide to play a little prank. They hold hands as they approach their 3 best friends and ask Lizzie if she would agree to a double wedding. Cam and Ruth share the happiness, and Lizzie, playing along, promises to talk to Dominic about it. Ruth is still dancing when she suddenly feels a pain in her leg. The others are confused while Ruth remains in strange silence, but this silence is soon replaced by a scream of pain as Ruth sees herself bleeding profusely. Meg and Cam immediately pulled her to the shore and everyone is horrified to see Ruth's leg with a small paw missing. Lizzie deduces that it was a shark and cries as she realizes that Cam brought him to shark-infested waters the day before her wedding. Cam asks her to calm down so they can help Ruth and asks for a scarf to wrap around her friend's leg. They carry Ruth to the boat, and Lizzie uses Cam's phone to call Dominic and ask for an ambulance to meet them at the dock, but there is no signal. Lizzie then starts the engine and drives the boat back to the dock. Cam grows increasingly worried as time passes while trying to help Ruth as much as she could, but Ruth had lost a lot of blood and if they didn't get her to a hospital as soon as possible she would die. Lizzie accelerated the boat and Cam told her to slow down, but Lizzie couldn't hear Cam's words clearly. When Cam finally shouted for her to stop, the boat's hull collided with a reef, making a hole in the bottom. Meg tried to block the water from entering the boat but couldn't. The fear and concern were making everyone agitated and Cam took most of the blame since she was the one who brought him to an unknown island. Cam lifts Ruth's leg while Kayla searches for life jackets on the boat. However, there is only one and Cam feels immensely guilty for not being better prepared before taking her friends into the middle of nowhere. Meg puts the life jacket on Ruth and everyone gathers around her as the boat starts filling with water. Lizzie, on the other hand, remains seated in her place, eyes closed and singing to herself as panic sets in. Meg, Kayla, and Cam try to talk to her, but Lizzie is too scared to respond properly. After a few more seconds of singing, Lizzie admits that she doesn't know how to swim and that the last time she tried to learn she was young and almost drowned. Kayla gives her a float and reassures her that she will be safe as long as she holds onto it and kicks her legs in the water. Kayla then jumps into the open sea and helps Meg and Cam carry Ruth as the boat completely sinks, leaving him adrift in the middle of the open sea. Lizzie clings to Meg and accidentally pushes her underwater, making young Meg relive the traumatic event she went through. Meg resurfaces, ignoring her own fear, and Lizzie apologizes. Caleb tries to call for help but her soaked phone no longer works and she throws it away in frustration. After some time, Cam almost drowns due to a cramp but manages to overcome it. Meanwhile, Meg reassures Lizzie, saying everything will be fine, and Lizzie decides to talk about the double wedding to keep her fear at bay. Kayla admits that the double wedding was just a joke and that she and Meg hadn't actually gotten back together. Camden feels something on her leg and accuses Lizzie of kicking her, but Lizzie didn't kick her and they are horrified to realize a shark is circling around them. Lizzie reassures them, saying the shark might just be curious. She explains how she used to watch shark documentaries with her dad and that sharks probably get curious and investigate. However, Ruth is bleeding and Meg knows that this could be what is attracting the shark. Meg doesn't want to take any risks and tells Cam to grab the knife in case the shark gets too close. The shark, however, seems to have left and Lizzie instructs everyone to punch the shark's nose, eyes or gills if it comes back. They all laugh as Lizzie tells how her dad was so paranoid about global warming and overprepared her for anything that could happen, including a shark attack. While they are joking around, Cam notices that Ruth has been extremely still for a while, and when they check on her they fall into deep sadness and pain, realizing that Ruth has passed away. Cam struggles to stay strong, and seeing the blood still losing from Ruth's leg, she suggests getting rid of the body as it could become a liability or put them in more danger. Kayla and Lizzie are upset at the idea of leaving their best friend behind, but Meg, despite the pain she is feeling, agrees. Cam whispers her apologies while Meg removes the life jacket from Ruth and they painfully say their goodbyes as their friend's body floats not far from them. The group is shocked when they see Ruth being devoured by the shark. Lizzie puts on the life jacket and Cam suggests that one of them swim north to find someone on land and get help. Kayla decides to go and Meg tries to tell her how she really feels, fearing she won't get another chance to confess her feelings once everyone is safe and sound, and then Kayla swims north. Meg, Cam and Lizzie wait a long time, but the late afternoon approaches. Em floats on her back and drifts a little away from Cam and Lizzie, who are arguing. Lizzie is worried about Kayla and wants to tell Meg the truth about her. Meg swims closer to the two and Lizzie explains the truth that she didn't know because of what happened a year ago. Kayla had planned to propose to Meg on the night of the attack, but then Meg was attacked and Dominic stole the moment by proposing to Lizzie. Meg is surprised to hear this and swims, hoping to follow Kayla and talk to her. Cam goes after her to stop her, unaware of the shark chasing them. Lizzie sees the shark following Cam and screams to warn her and also distract the shark, but it's too late as the shark cuts Cam's arm, marking her. After tasting human blood, Cam swims away from Meg to avoid putting her in danger and waits for the shark with a knife in hand, but she is unable to harm the creature, which unfortunately devours her. The two friends reunite and Lizzie cries, regretting everything she said to Cam before the shark took her life. Meg, feeling the loss, hugs her. After a while exhaustion was setting in, but Meg suggested they swim a bit more to at least get closer to land. Lizzie advised that it was better to stay put so that when Kayla brought help they would know where to find them. Just then they saw a yacht approaching. They screamed desperately to get the passengers' attention, but the music on the yacht was too loud and their cries went unheard as the yacht sailed past. Lizzie was frustrated by the ignorance of the passengers and Meg hugged her to calm her down. They floated in the middle of nowhere until the sky darkened. To make matters worse, it started to rain and Lizzie joked that she would be furious if she got struck by lightning in the midst of the storm. They lost the float they were sharing and Lizzie clung to Meg. After some time the storm subsided and the sea became calm again. Meg was floating on her back and fell asleep, but Lizzie woke her up, startling her as she tried to stay afloat. Lizzie held Meg and offered her the life jacket, but Meg refused because Lizzie couldn't swim properly. Lizzie apologized for the situation they were in, feeling responsible for allowing her friends to suffer now that they had already lost two of their best friends and there was still no sign of Kayla. Lizzie was afraid of losing Meg the same way they lost Ruth and Cam. After a while Meg fell asleep from exhaustion and Lizzie put something in her pocket before hugging her tightly. When Meg woke up the sun was already rising. Lizzie was nowhere to be found and Meg was wearing the life jacket that Lizzie had been wearing. Meg took off the jacket and dove in, hoping to find Lizzie, but to no avail. She put the jacket back on and looked at the sky, silently mourning another lost friend. Although she didn't see what happened to Lizzie, it didn't take long for Meg to realize that Lizzie had sacrificed herself to keep her alive. Whether Lizzie simply drowned and sank or was devoured by the shark, Meg didn't know and didn't want to think about it. Meg decided that now that she was alone she couldn't just stay put waiting for the shark to attack her. Unfortunately she didn't swim very far before the shark appeared again. The shark came straight for her and when it showed its sharp teeth Meg punched the shark's nose as Lizzie had said her dad taught her, successfully warding it. For now Meg laughed, realizing that Lizzie's advice worked, but she quickly quieted down when she saw that the shark had wounded her hand. She lifted the wound to keep the blood from entering the water and looked around for something that could help. She then saw a cluster of rocks in the middle of the ocean. Without thinking much Meg took off the life jacket and rubbed her blood on it before throwing it as far away as possible to distract the shark. She then swam quickly towards the rocks while the shark followed the scent of blood on the jacket. However, it didn't stay fooled for long and changed direction to chase after the young woman. Meg managed to climb onto the cluster of rocks before the shark reached her and the sharp rock cut her leg. She took off her shirt and wrapped it around her hand, then just lay there with her injured hand in the water. Sometime later the white cloth wrapped around her hand had turned red from the blood, which was attracting the shark's attention. Before it could reach her hand Meg stood up and moved away. The sun was setting and Meg realized that the tide was rising. Additionally, the sharks, now two of them, were becoming increasingly aggressive. The tide continued to rise and it wouldn't be long before Meg became fish food, but to her delight she saw Kayla returning with help, though she worried about what action to take. The shark seemingly realizing that its prey finally had a chance to escape, became even more aggressive and launched an attack. However, Meg jumped into the ocean before the attack, narrowly escaping the sharks' teeth, and as Meg swam towards the rescue boat, the shark swam quickly towards her to catch its prey this time. Fortunately, Meg reached the boat and Kayla helped her aboard, barely escaping the sharks' sharp teeth. Kayla asked about Cam and Lizzie, and with a nod Meg made Kayla understand what had happened. Meg felt something in her pocket and pulled out the friendship bracelets that Lizzie had intended to give everyone at the wedding but never got the chance. Kayla hugged Meg and she leaned on her as they cried for the friends they lost on this tragic trip.